Welcome back to another exciting edition of Photoshop. I'm Taylor Sensei, and I will be your guide for the rest of this episode. Today, I'm going to introduce you to one of the most powerful tools in Photoshop. This tool is used not just in Photoshop, but in Illustrator and in 3D animation software. It's called the Pen tool. But before we get to that, let's go into Moodle here, and let's go day 4, cut it out, part 2. And I'm going to be corny right now and show you something from the 90s. Cut it out. Get it, scissors? Cut it out. Okay, no more corny jokes.
Thank you, cut it out.
Let's get to it. So this is all the instructions. I'm going to go through them obviously with the video. This is the image we're going to deal with right here called Pokesaur. So go ahead and download that and then open up Photoshop. Okay, here we are in Photoshop. Let's go ahead and hit open. You're going to want to open up this Pokesaur right here. As you can see, Pokesaur is on a grass background. So I want you to go over here and go to the magic wand selection tool like we did last time and go ahead and click somewhere. Well, that's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. And look, I have my tolerance set all the way to 100. I don't think I showed you guys this before, but the higher this number is, the more it will select. Watch, when I select 10% and click again, it's only going to select barely any, if you can see that little tiny selection there, right? It'll select just a small range of colors. But if I go all the way up to 100%, which is the highest it allows, it's still not going to select enough of our background to just delete it. Therefore, I'm going to teach you what I consider the fastest and most powerful selection tool in Photoshop. Now, other teachers may disagree with me, but that's okay. I've used Photoshop since the 90s, literally. That's how old I am. I was born in the 80s, learned Photoshop in the 90s, okay? So you got to believe me, I know what I'm talking about. I am the Photoshop ninja. All right, so I'm going to Control D, unselect that. Introducing the Pen tool. Now, the Pen tool is not just useful for Photoshop, it's useful for all kinds of design applications. Those of you who are continuing with me through the design pathway or the video pathway, any of those pathways, you will use this Pen tool quite a bit. And I will warn you right now, it's difficult to master. So I'm not going to bother you too much if you really struggle with it. If this is your first time using the Pen tool, it's gonna seem difficult at first. But once you master the Pen tool, it really is the fastest way to select. There are people that can use the Pen tool to select this whole creature in a matter of seconds. Okay, so let me show you how it works. I've got this Pen tool selected, hotkey is P, and what it does is allow you to create shapes that are curved. See? Let me go ahead and zoom in there. Oh, okay, I have stroke on. It's cool that it showed you this. We won't be using the stroke. We're actually going to be using the Pen tool to select. So I don't want any fills or strokes. So if I go up here, I can just hit nada, or this nada button. I don't know what it's really called. And this right here. Okay, so now I've just got my blue line to select with. And then you can draw shapes, and then to complete the shape, you click here. Yeah, kind of boring, right? Yes, you can fill it. You can make cool shapes with it. And in Illustrator, you do make shapes with it. But like I said, we're going to use this for selections. I'm going to go ahead and delete this path. So if I go over here to path, I can right click and delete path. I'm going to draw a new one though. This is where we're going to be though to make selections with it. So it's right over here under the layers panel, or near the layers panel right over here. So let's go ahead and select this guy. And as you do this, keep in mind there's a couple hotkeys you're going to need to learn to kind of navigate. So I'm going to want to zoom in. I usually use Control and Spacebar to move in, and I like to start somewhere like easy right here at the top, and I make a point. And then I can come all the way over here and make the curve by just dragging it out. Now let's say I didn't put it in the right place, like I put it over here and I drag it out. Well, that's not going to work, but I can move it with the space bar. Okay, so I could move this point around by holding the space bar in. Of course, I wouldn't really do that. And again, I don't know why this popped on stroke. It's very frustrating. We're just going to put this on path, and then it won't allow that in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. We'll start that over again. Again, select path here instead of shape. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a point down, then I'm going to go around and stretching this around. Now the power of the Pen tool is that I can make these advanced curved shapes very quickly. And I'm going slow here, but when I'm really tracking with it, I can go extremely fast. I'd like to speed run this for you, but I know I'll make mistakes because teaching and talking and doing this design at the same time is not very easy. However, I expect fully that you guys are going to make mistakes with the Pen tool and that you're going to be a bit frustrated at first. So all I'm doing is I'm holding down the space bar if I need to, and I'm dragging to get the curve right. Now, there are some tweaks I need to make. You can see here this handle's not quite right. And if I hold down my control key, I can adjust the handle right here. Or you can adjust all this afterwards. But these handles let you adjust the curve. I don't know if you can see that, but I can adjust these curves and move the points around by holding down the control key. But I still have the pen tool when I let go of the control key. Now, you can see with all these hotkeys I'm using, why most instructors say I'm not going to teach freshmen how to use the pen tool. They're not going to be able to accomplish it. Well, I believe in you guys, and I've seen some amazing students come through our program, very talented. Again, it's complicated, right? So I'm going slow as I go through this. I need to make sure that path's selected. I'm going to keep going. Looks like I accidentally lost it, so I just hit Control Z to get back, and then I'm going to keep going with my selection. Now, if I get to a point like this, I don't drag it all. I just leave it because now I want to cut this way, and it allows me to do that. But when I want it to curve, that's when I drag it. This is going to take a lot of practice for you, and this Pokesaur is the perfect thing to practice with. Now, I'm using spacebar to move around. I can still zoom out, and I can kind of go around if I want to zoom in to kind of get more control. I can do that. I can zoom out. Again, I'm holding Control and spacebar to zoom in, Control Alt spacebar to zoom out. Now, I could have had this done by now if I wasn't talking and trying to show you guys the hotkeys. So what I'm going to do is speed run around this tail so you don't have to hear me the whole time. Okay, and then on these long shapes you can go crazy fast because they're just long curves. And of course this takes practice, and I mean not even perfect at it. But once you master the pen tool, it's so useful and so fast to use. And again, like I said, you can go back and fix points really quickly and easily. But it is truly the fastest way to make selections that are complex, like this one, with a background. So you're gonna want to learn it. Again, go easy on yourself if it's really a struggle, because we can go back and fix our selection later. And I've got to warn you guys, this is the first group of students I've ever shown the pen tool to at this young of an age. I've only ever shown it to upper students. So if you guys can master this early, you'll be so much further ahead than them. And that's my goal. I want to take those of you who are going to learn design, and I want you guys to kind of speed track it. In fact, at our school, we always work on curriculum all the time, and we move stuff around to try to get you guys better, faster, and at a younger age. And there's some things that you're not going to get at younger ages, but something like the pen tool, you guys can absolutely practice and get good with early on. And I believe in you guys. That's why I'm teaching it to you. And you can't do this if your hands are tired, because it's kind of hard on the hands. But again, practice makes perfect, and the more you practice, the faster at it you'll be. And then you can speed run selections. Difficult selections. Obviously, the magic selection tool is faster if it's an easy object. It's not complex. It doesn't have a lot of high frequency lines and whatnot, like this Pokesaur on grass. Okay, and then once again, to complete it, I just click there. Now I have him somewhat selected. I could go back and modify again using the control key. I could click on this point and move it out a little bit. And I highly encourage you to do this, but don't worry too much if it's not perfect, especially now in the beginning. I just want you guys to start practicing with the pen tool with selections. Now, it's not a selection right now, it's just a shape. In fact, I could turn it into a shape here. Let me reselect that. I thought I lost it. Over here in the work paths again, right here. So what you want to do to make this a selection is you right click, make selection. You'll get this little pop up here and you just hit OK. And then you've got the little wavy ant lines. That's your selection. Now you could copy him and put him somewhere else, or you could invert the selection and delete. So I can just go select inverse. It selects all the grass. I hit delete. You get this pop up, you say OK, and there it is. Now, because I never made this a background layer, we've just got that blue, so I don't get the checkered that I actually need. I forgot to double click on the background layer, so I'll double click there, hit OK, hit delete again. There's our checkers, Control D to unselect. And now I'm going to have you guys save the Pokesaur because we're going to use him tomorrow. Now, this was a short, quick lesson about the pen tool because I really want you to practice it. I know it's going to take time. If you guys get done with this early and you're really quick and you're bored, go ahead and practice with this tool on some other shapes. Cut them out because we're going to take this guy and we're going to take the Pokemon and we're going to combine them. We're going to actually do some compositing on their faces. It's going to get a little bit more advanced tomorrow. Again, this one was a little bit more advanced for selections. Before we're done though, before we save this out, I want you to notice that there's some places where I made mistakes. Yes. Your great sensei teacher made mistakes. You see where the outline's kind of gone? I'm going to show you one other quick tool real quick in Photoshop that's pretty awesome. It's called the history brush. If we come over here to brushes, make sure you have the history brush selected. And if I draw here, you notice that that line starts coming out. Now we haven't gone over the brush tool yet. You can see I could go too far. I'll Control Z that. Now I haven't shown you the brush tool yet, but it's also one of the main tools in Photoshop. Those of you who get good at Photoshop will be using brush tools all the time. This is the history brush tool, and it allows us to restore parts of the image that are gone. So I can right click and change my settings here on the brush. You can get very advanced with brushes, but I don't want it this big. I want it very small, just maybe like 3 pixels, and I'll just zoom in. And then I have a soft brush. I don't want it soft, so I could change that to a much I could change this hardness here and take it all the way up to 100%. Okay, so then I could come in here with this tool and just kind of bring back those lines ever so carefully. Again, it would be better to use the selection tool and get it perfect from the beginning, but if you don't, this is a great tool right here, and you will use this tool quite a bit. So, 2 things we've learned today were the pen tool and then this art history brush, okay? So I want you to go in here, fix it up. If you feel like you need to get this black outline in there, go ahead and paint it back in with the art history brush. Again, right click to change the settings, take your hardness all the way up and draw this out like so. Again, if you get too much, like let's say you go too far and you get the grass, you can hit E and get the eraser tool, which is very much a brush tool. So I'll right click and I can change that. I want the hardness up, I want the size down, and then I can paint that out. Now, I've got my opacity here at 25%. And flow at. So I want to take those all the way up, opacity and flow, and then I can delete what I just drew, okay? So that's 3 tools now. The eraser tool, which is the hotkey E, the history brush, and the pen tool, the mighty, mighty pen tool for selections, okay? When you're all done with this, you've got everything fixed up, ready to go. I've already got him cut out myself, so I don't need to go through all this, and you don't need to watch me erase. Otherwise, I'd just continue doing it, but it would waste your time and mine. Some of you guys are roaring to get going on this. Again, ask questions if you need help, and I'll run through them again. We got the pen tool where you can select, draw circles by dragging, hold down the space bar to move your selection point and reconnect them all. You can make a selection by going over to Paths, right-clicking, make selection, hit OK. You can also hold down the Control key and modify your points, like so. Okay, that's a lot to take in. It's going to take a lot of practice. And then when you're done and you've deleted the background, you can bring back things that you're missing with the history brush tool right here. And of course, you can fix things with the eraser tool right here. And you can right-click and change your size, the hardness of the brush, and your opacity and flow. I moved really quickly there, and I'm sure some of you will have questions, but that's how to use the pen tool, and that's how to fix things that go wrong with the pen tool. You're gonna get better, so if it's really discouraging, you feel like you're not doing a great job, don't worry. I promise you it gets easier the more you practice. So practice, practice, practice. And by the way, don't forget, File, Save As, Save to Creative Cloud. Make sure to share it with me. You know how to do it. You're a pro at it now. Okay, make sure to share it with me. Paste the link in Moodle. Thank you very much.